Hey guys, Pat here. So let's talk about the reboot of Flight of the Navigator. If you don't know what Flight of the Navigator is, which, if you don't know what that is, get the hell off this channel. It's a 1986 adventure movie, as Variety calls it. And it was a movie about a little boy who basically, I think he goes in a coma. He walks through the woods, that's right. He walks through the woods in the 70s, and then he wakes up 10 years later and he has no memories of anything that's happened over the past few years. And he discovers that he was abducted by an alien spaceship. So the first half of the movie, if you haven't seen it, is the best part, and it's the part I remember the most as a kid. Is it's kind of this kid waking up later, and this actor that's really good kid actor, and you're kind of curious about the mystery of what really happened and what's totally going on. And then the second half of the film, he basically mixes with this spaceship that's voiced by Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. Um, it's some biomechanical type thing. It's really cool, but the kid basically can fly the spaceship, and they go all around and stuff like that. It was a classic film for 80s and 90s kids who liked films like Explorers. Just works like Joe Dante in general, and a lot of the Spielberg kids, the people who came off from Spielberg. They were films about young people getting to explore their imagination and their hopes and dreams through these fantastical things. And they were relatable because the actors in them usually were young and the same age you are when you watch them. I remember the movie The Gate really stuck with me as horror film. And, of course, Goonies and Stand By Me and E.T. There's just something about people at that age and the naturalism that comes from that really makes those movies more magical. And it's something Hollywood kind of lost there for a little bit. The charm of the kid movie, the movie with the kid protagonist that was really likable in that way. Although I think we're getting back to it with stuff like It. They're starting to find out, or Stranger Things, there is a market again. They're like, oh yeah, people will watch movies about kids. You just have to get good actors. That's it. Get a good kid actor in your movies. All right. I love Flight of the Navigator. I haven't seen it in a long time, so maybe my memory's a little fuzzy. And it kind of is. I had to actually look up a synopsis to remember some of that stuff, but it's just because I couldn't remember the exact beats of the plot. But it's a terrific little family adventure film. The first half in particular is really well directed, and the score is wonderful actually. And I don't know, I love it. It's so charming. I love movies from that time, like war games and stuff like that. There's just a tone to them. Here's the thing. A lot of people are negative about this. A lot of people are really mad. Colin Trevorrow was attached to this at one point, the guy who did Jurassic World and recently got let go from Star Wars. And now they're bringing in a guy who I guess worked on Arrested Development. I don't know if he's the guy who created Arrested Development, but he's brought in to work on it. Which, if it's the guy who actually was the main mind behind that show, that'd be amazing. But I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But anyway, Colin Trevorrow didn't end up working on this. They've been in development hell with this movie for years. I think since like 2009 or something like that. Oh, and they also have the showrunner from Lucifer. Yes, the showrunner from Lucifer is writing the script right now. And the Arrested Development guy was hired by Disney to write the first draft of the remake in 2009. And that was the draft that Colin Trevorrow was working on, and then he left. But okay, so it's the showrunner of Lucifer. So I haven't seen Lucifer. I've heard good things, but I've actually never watched it. So I'm not sure how this is going to turn out quality wise because I don't know the writer very well, and we don't have a director yet, and that's very important. Who directs this really matters because that's going to be getting toned down. But I see a lot of negative stuff on this. People are mad. They're like, oh, they're rebooting something. They keep tapping into that Spielberg thing. They don't want to do new things. This is just Super 8 again, and Force Awakens. It's just a nostalgia fest, and Stranger Things and It. And they're rushing this because it was such a success. And I get what people mean with that. I really do. I've certainly had that criticism. But what I think with this is some movies that when they want to remake them or reboot them, as they like to say, there is potential in the original idea to be better in some of these. Not all of them. A lot of them I don't get why you'd reboot. Like rebooting Back to the Future, Robert Zemeckis has made it where it can't really happen, but it makes no sense. It's kind of like a perfect execution of the concept. And you don't really want to open it up more. But Flight of the Navigator, there is something really interesting there about the boy being asleep for years and then waking up and then joining this alien spaceship. even more so today with the singularity, like how people all have phones and computers. You know that movie Her that Spike Jonze made? Something like that, where the kid's bonding with this alien being, but it's like it's tech based, and it's some weird hybrid of humanity and alien technology. I do think you could do something with that, not only philosophically, but just as an entertainment piece and something cool visually, like what you could do with the ship now, and the kid like he uses his mind and stuff like that, and then he's talking to the ship, and it's like alive. I mean, that I really think there's an idea there. I'd love to see. I think you could do it like Spike Jonze Her. It wouldn't be a romantic adult film, but it would be this kid coming of age story, but him bonding with this thing, and I think you could capture that. There's just some movies I think they would work if somebody came in with a good approach. I'm sitting there like, this could be like a Black Mirror type thing, just more family film. But there's things you could tap into with Flight of the Navigator. It's just like Explorers, I think, is a great idea, but it so perfectly executes boys building the spaceship. Flight of the Navigator, on the other hand, it's not a perfect movie. You could probably fix a lot of little things about it and maybe spend less time with the boy flying. Maybe that's even the payoff at the end. I'd be much more interested in seeing a film really explore this mystery and conspiracy theory and that kind of stuff. And I mean, I guess it would just be what Stranger Things is doing, which if you I love that show, so maybe I'm just a sucker for this stuff. But I don't think it's a bad idea. Like really, when you hear a lot of ideas for a movie to remake, you're like, well, why would you redo that? But Flight of the Navigator, I kind of see a concept there. I see what somebody could do with that. That actually makes a lot of sense to me, and there are things to explore there that the original movie didn't. That doesn't mean they're going to, or that this film won't be a shallow shell of something that already existed, of course. But if you have a good actor in the lead role, like and it's really well written, it's got good dialogue, and the special effects are amazing, and the guy they get to do the voice is like Andy Serkis or someone who can really do something with it. This could be a good movie. This really could. So I don't think it's fair just being upfront negative. I get the cynicism and you're sick of Hollywood not trying to come up with new ideas, but that doesn't mean you can't take old ideas and do something new with them, because that's what Hollywood's always done. A lot of screenplays and stories are just stories taken from another story, and then somebody adds their own take on some kind of narrative or cliche you've seen before. And I think that you can take old stories and find a new approach to them if you want to look at it that way. Not every remake or reboot necessarily has to be a shallow film. Like John Carpenter's The Thing isn't shallow at all, and it's interesting and it has a different approach. He chooses something more horrific and visceral with the special effects and gore than the original film did. But it keeps a lot of the same ideas, and I don't know. I'm more hopeful about this. I hope it's a good movie. That doesn't mean it will be, but it could be a good movie. So that's the only thing I can say. And anything could be a good movie, but some ideas really you don't get what they're going to do. I think if we start hearing things about this, there might be something. Although I do feel like this is getting rushed a little quicker because it made so much money, and they're thinking, let's do Flight of the Navigator now, even though that's not as big of a property. Kind of more of a cult film than this big novel written by Stephen King and this famous miniseries. Yeah, is Hollywood rebooting too much stuff? Sure. We won't know until this comes out, but sometimes people get together and they surpass the cynicism and they get over the product of it all, and they end up making something that actually has a heart to it and really transcends homage. And I'm hoping that's where we're coming in with this movie. That's the best positive spin I can give on it. On the other hand, I'd recommend going to watch Flight of the Navigator or getting the DVD, what have you, and finding it. It's a little gem. It holds up a lot better than, say, something like Space Camp with a young Joaquin Phoenix in that. It's very odd. Might do a review of Space Camp. That movie's kind of craptastic. It's got BB-8 in it, way before BB-8 was the thing. I don't have much else to say about this. I guess I could give you more of the information, but it's whatever. It's those guys working on it. Henderson also has credits as a writer, co-executive producer on White Collar, Graceland, and Almost Human. I haven't watched any. I've watched some of White Collar. He's rep by CAA, Stan Spry at the cartel, and yeah, that's just their background. Okay, so I don't know. Basically, it's about a kid teaming up with an alien spaceship. I think it's a cool idea. I think they could do something with it. Let's see what happens. So I'm asking you guys in the comment section. Here's the question I'm going to throw out to you. If you were responsible for remaking Flight of the Navigator, if you had to make this movie, what would your approach be? And try to find an original take on this. And how would you make the movie again without copying the first film? For instance, I think the film The Last Starfighter is a film that could really use a remake. Even though I love that movie, I think there's a lot of stuff in it you could expand into a longer film and explore ideas that it hinted at. That maybe it was limited to because of special effects at the time and what people expected from it. I think today you could do more with it. But let me know in the comment section. Give me your pitch for the Flight of the Navigator reboot and how you would like to see it turn out. Let's be positive and create something instead of just going, this sucks. You know, let's see what we can do together. Anyway, like and subscribe if you like these videos and watch more. And guys, please rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. I don't want to have to do it.